Robert Byrne, Robert Eugene Byrne, born in New York, April 20th, 1928, and he was inspired to learn chess at the age of 8 after seeing players in the local park. How many times have we heard that story repeated? Byrne got the International Master title in 1952 and Grandmaster in 1964. He won first place at the U.S. Open 1966 and the 72 United States Chess Championship, which was also a qualifying zonal. Byrne won that after a three-way tie with Reshevsky and Lubomir Kovalek, but Robert Byrne won the playoff to advance to the interzonal at Leningrad in 1973. The Leningrad interzonal was one of the highlights of Robert Byrne's career. He finished only 1 point behind the winners, which were Korchnoi and Karpov. So he advanced to the candidates, but he was eliminated in the quarterfinal candidates match against Boris Spassky. Robert Byrne worked as a university professor for many years, but he did become a chess professional in the 1970s. Robert Byrne was the editor for the New York Times chess column all the way from 1972 until he retired in 2006. His final column recounted his 1952 victory over David Bronstein. So a very well-respected player and writer was Robert Byrne. He passed away April 12th, 2013, 8 days before his 85th birthday. It was D4, knight f6, c4, g6, and he played g3 first. Robert Byrne played the fianchetto variation. Castles, now knight c3, d6, and knight f3. And now that's Yugoslav system right there. Knight c6 is Carlsbad variation, and I'm assuming that's Carlsbad in Czechoslovakia, and Oskar Pano's variation with kingside castle. e5, d5, knight e7, pawn c5, and here knight d7. Normally knight e8 is played, like so, and on pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, and then either a4 or e4 from white. In this game, Bobby chose knight d7. We get pawn takes pawn anyway, and pawn takes pawn. Knight d2 from Robert Byrne. And again, e4 is more frequent, or a4, just like I showed a moment ago. In the future from this game, when I say in the future, I mean in reference to this game, Viktor Korchnoi will play a4 against Bobby, and that's going to be in 1962 at the Curaçao Candidates Tournament, or was it a match? I can't remember. I think it was a tournament that year. So that is a legit move that Bobby will face in 4 years from this time, 3.5. Robert Byrne with knight d2. Now pawn f5. Okay, b6 has not been tried, but it would be a good way to introduce the bishop. I don't see it in the database, though. f5 from Bobby Fischer. a4, e4, opens this long diagonal for the bishop. Knight c4, knight e5. The knights are traded on e5 and bishop e3. Bishop d7, a5, b5. That pawn is captured en passant and recaptured by the a-man. Robert Byrne with queen b3, queen d2 being the better way to connect the rooks. Pawn b5, pawn f3. Bot calling for rook d1. I would prefer to put it on c1 because it's an open file. The bot here saying bishop g5, pinning the knight. Well, this rook is calling for bishop h6 as well, right? Oops, let's put that back. Oh, it says that's inaccurate. Oh, it changed its mind. I was going to say it can't be that bad. I mean, I'm hitting the rook. Now, let's point out that even though that's under super attack there on b5, you don't want to take that because I can then pin your knight to your queen, and since the knight is already under attack, that will win the knight. So, don't be grabbing that pawn. Anyway, Robert Byrne with f3. E takes f3. Bishop takes f3. Rook takes the rook on a1, and rook takes the rook. f4. Pawn takes pawn. Bishop takes the pawn. Now, knight e4, discovering a defense of the bishop, but simply trading seems to be the more accurate way to continue. Oh, gift check here first. Knight to e4 was played. Bishop takes the bishop. Queen takes the bishop. Knight to f5. Queen to a7. Queen c3 keeps the pawn from pushing. Yeah, I know. Isn't that interesting? Very precarious looking pawn. Queen a7 from Robert Byrne here, and knight h4. Rook f1 gets a big question mark, and the eval bar lunges upward. Queen a6 to keep the balance, and that's a super attack on the aforementioned D-man. I say aforementioned for those watching the video. Look over there in the chat room, and you'll see Bertrout pointing out that D-man never seems to be in danger. Well, Queen a6 creates a super attack, but don't grab it here. Don't grab it here. Even though it looks like it's undefended, it's not a safe grab because that knight was overworked. That knight was busy keeping your queen off of g5, right? And then you are, queen g2 check is the winning move. Force the king to e3, and then take this bishop. If he takes your bishop, then queen g5. White's just toasted here. He is busted. It's all over, right? He had nowhere to go. You can't go to d3. Actually, queen d2. And this is, this is checkmate. These are both checkmate. That's checkmate. That's checkmate. Actually, that's checkmate. So many ways to checkmate. You're bound to like one of them. So you'd have to move in line. You'd have to move in line with this rook. Very unfortunate, isn't it? Etc. All right, so that pawn is not in any real danger. Even though it's seemingly undefended, the knight is overworked. It can't do both jobs. Anyway, Robert Byrne with rook f1. Queen a6 was the way to really put some pressure here. That knight's got to maintain the defense of g5. Rook f1 was played. Bishop h3 hits the rook. Rook f2. Bishop f5. Knight f5 being called for. I would think there are a lot of ways to keep this initiative, like even rook f7 gets a star. And if you bring your queen over here, again, you got a lot of ways to infiltrate. The king is really in a precarious position with these two controlled by the bishop and these two occupied. Connect these two dots, and queen a5 is called for. Okay, or queen a8. According to this, but same thing, it's just different. All right, Bobby with bishop f5, knight g3. Robert Byrne offered the draw. It was the last round of the event, a long event. Bobby only needed a draw to guarantee first place. And so on January 4th, 1959, final round, Robert Byrne said, "Hey, Bobby, let's just call it a tournament, and congratulations." Bobby accepted. Both players scoring high accuracy, 93 for Byrne, 94.5 for Fischer, 2,800 single game rating for Byrne, 2,850 for Fischer. And that is your coverage of the 1958-1959 United States Chess Championship. Let's put the cross table up there one more time, and you can see Bobby Fischer, 6 wins, 5 draws, 0 losses. So Fischer in first place, 1 full point. Reshevsky only 1 loss. Jim Sherwin, 2 losses. Don Byrne, Bill Lombardi, Arthur Bisguyer, Larry Evans all tied for 6 points. Paul Benko, 5.5. Robert Byrne, 4. Charles Call me on the line. Call me anytime. Call me. Oh, yeah. Edmar J. Mednes sharing last place with Weinstein. I hope you enjoyed this coverage. Until next time, have a great day and play some great chess. Bye now.